Betco, the name to count on for better resources in chemicals, equipment, programs, process, and achieving continuously better results for over 50 years. Betco, creating better resources for facilities maintenance professionals. Betco Resources and Process Management Training Library, expanding competencies for cleaning professionals.
You're one of the over 32 million workers that are exposed to hazardous chemicals in the workplace. These chemicals pose a myriad of hazards to workers. Physical hazards such as fires or explosions could occur, or mild health effects such as skin irritations, to serious illness or even death. Wouldn't you like to know if the chemicals in your work environment cause rashes, burns, poisoning, or even chronic diseases, sterility, or cancer? With over 500,000 different hazardous chemicals out there, OSHA created the Hazard Communication Standard for your protection. This training module, which is one in the Betco Resource and Process Management, or RPM Library Series, focuses on OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard, or HAZCOM, for the workplace. The module will cover an overview of the OSHA HAZCOM standard, hazardous materials definition, 3 important components needed in your workplace: labels, material safety data sheets, and training, employer's responsibility, and keeping safe. OSHA, or the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, is a government agency that was founded in 1970 to ensure safe and healthy working conditions for employees. The Hazard Communication Standard was developed to provide you with the right to know about the hazards and identities of the chemicals you're exposed to while working, as well as the measures you can take to protect yourself. OSHA realizes that you need to understand the chemicals you use so you can protect yourself. The HAZCOM standard achieves its purpose by an integrated 3-pronged system. First, chemical manufacturers and importers must review available scientific evidence concerning the physical and health hazards of the chemicals they produce or import to determine if they're hazardous. Second, for every chemical found to be hazardous, the chemical manufacturer or importer must develop comprehensive material safety data sheets, MSDSs, and warning labels for containers and send both downstream along with the chemicals. Third, all employers must develop a written hazard communication program and provide information and training to employees about the hazardous chemicals in their workplace. Before we go any further, let's identify which materials OSHA considers hazardous. Many people characterize a hazardous product as one that could burn your skin, is flammable, or could cause long-term health effects, which is true to some respect. However, OSHA also includes products that may cause minor irritation, like shampoos and detergents, which may cause temporary redness or itching of the skin or watery eyes. Other more obvious hazards include any product that is cancer-causing, corrosive, flammable, toxic, an irritant, a sensitizer, or can damage specific body organs. The following is a listing of OSHA health hazard classifications. Their specific definitions can be found in the glossary of your Betco HAZCOM workbook. Carcinogen, corrosive, highly toxic, irritant, sensitizer, toxic, and target organ effects. Whether the hazard is major or minor, it's still a hazard that must be identified by your employer, and you must be able to find out if you're at risk of exposure and how to minimize or handle exposure. The 3 information components necessary for effective hazard communication, labels, material safety data sheets, and worker training, are all essential to the effective functioning of HAZCOM. The labels provide a brief synopsis of the hazards of the chemicals used in the work area. The MSDSs provide comprehensive technical information and serve as a reference document for exposed workers, as well as healthcare professionals providing services to those workers. Training ensures that the workers understand the information on both MSDSs and labels, know how to access this information when needed, and are aware of the proper protective procedures to follow. An essential part of a hazard communication program is labeling. This is a quick, easy way for you to see the most important information about the product you're working with. The product's name, any hazard warnings, disposal instructions, directions for use, first aid, and the manufacturer's name and address. All Betco brand labels also include helpful telephone numbers and an MSDS access number for an automated fax-on-demand system. Product containers of chemicals that have been poured from one container to another also require the same specific labeling. Label all containers that have the possibility of being picked up or used by a fellow employee. A container must be labeled with all of the appropriate information in the form of text or symbols or a combination of both. It is an OSHA violation not to have the correct labels on any hazardous chemical containers. This includes many of the products you use daily, like glass and surface cleaners and multi-purpose cleaners. Your facility could experience costly OSHA fines if found with improperly labeled containers. Betco provides pre-printed containers or self-stick labels for secondary labeling purposes. Your supervisor will provide the containers, self-stick labels, or will provide information on appropriate labeling. Never use or handle an unlabeled container. This is an OSHA regulation intended for your safety and the safety of your coworkers. The only circumstance under which you should handle an unlabeled container is if you are aware of the contents because you poured the material from one container to another during your shift. If you find a container that is not labeled, notify your supervisor immediately. Chemical manufacturers or private brand distributors create an MSDS for each of their products. The sheet includes both technical and safety information. Although the MSDSs may look different depending on the manufacturer or distributor, each one must include the name of the product, physical and chemical characteristics, physical hazards, health hazards, routes of entry such as eyes, skin, ingestion, etc., exposure limits if applicable, cancer-causing hazards if applicable, what kind of protection you'll need to use to handle the product, emergency and first aid procedures, and the date the MSDS was prepared. An additional hazard rating system may be included on the MSDS or the label to provide quick reference safety information. Each sheet must also show the name, address, and phone number of the manufacturer or private brand distributor. This contact can give you more technical data about the hazards. They can help you develop ways to safely use the product or provide assistance in an emergency situation. It is imperative that you know where the MSDSs are located at your job site. MSDSs can often be found in a binder at a HazCom station within your workplace. Many facilities are putting MSDS information on computers. Manufacturers have various ways to get an MSDS, no matter when you may need it. Material safety data sheets for Betco products can be retrieved by a 24-hour fax line or at our website at www.betco.com. Be sure to take the time to read about the products you use. Think about what the sheet says and how you're using the product. Are you working safely? And remember, if you're going to work with a new product, read the MSDS and consult with your supervisor before you begin. Just having labels and MSDSs around would be ineffective if you didn't know how to interpret them or where to find them. That's why proper training is a requirement for an effective HazCom program. Proper training will ensure that you'll know how to read and use material safety data sheets, will know what protection to use to work safely with the chemicals in your workplace, and will be able to determine what actions to take if an emergency occurs. Besides training, your employer should have a written hazard communication program at your workplace, and there must be someone responsible for keeping it up to date. Familiarize yourself with the program and understand how it's implemented in your facility. This written HazCom program lists all of the hazardous materials at your site. It explains how your employer informs you and your coworkers about new and existing hazards. It also notes the location of MSDSs for each material and who is responsible for updating them. And finally, it includes information on hazards, safe handling, and recommended personal protective equipment. Thousands of workers per year experience injury, illness, disease, or fatalities related to a chemical source. By being aware of the potential hazards of the chemicals that are purchased and used in your environment, you become one of the millions that remain safe and healthy. Remember these safety tips when dealing with chemicals. All chemical containers must be properly labeled. This includes the original manufacturer's packaging as well as secondary packaging, such as spray bottles. Be sure to read the label and MSDS before starting any procedure. Know where the MSDSs are located in your facility, as well as how to read and understand each MSDS for the products you come in contact with, especially new ones. Always wear recommended personal protective equipment, or PPE, such as gloves and goggles. You'll find them listed on the product's label and material safety data sheet. Read and understand your employer's HAZCOM program designed for your facility. If possible, use a chemical management system, such as Betco's Green Earth 2XL. Chemical management systems are an effective way to reduce chemical exposure. They limit contact with concentrated chemical products and ensure accurate product dilution. In summary, you should remember the following. You have the right to know about the chemical hazards within your workplace. There are 3 important parts to hazard communications: labeling, MSDSs, and worker training. Your employer should have a written HAZCOM program available for you to review. All chemical containers must be properly labeled. Always wear the recommended personal protective equipment. Always read and understand labels and MSDSs for the products that you use. Remember, you have the right to safe and healthy working conditions, and you have the right to know about any and all of the hazardous materials you work with. Be proud that you and your employer have taken the time to learn more about OSHA HAZCOM and use your knowledge to make a difference in creating a safe, clean, and healthy environment.
Betco, the name to count on for better resources